Hey, welcome today to the Coastline Podcast. This is our opportunity to share with you the stories of our church family. People with the past, people who've made mistakes, people who have regrets, people who've learned incredibly valuable life lessons. It's all about God taking people's story and redeeming it for His glory. So we're going to get honest, we're going to get real, we're going to get vulnerable, and it's going to be transparent. So join us today on this episode of our Coastline Podcast.
Ready? Hey, today this is Grace-Based Living, and I am with my beautiful wife and co-host Amanda Jane.
And I'm having to give you grace because I have a black eye and a broken rib, but you didn't do it.
That's right. Tell us about the black eye. It looks you did well covering it up.
I covered it up pretty well, but you know those dumb vegetable peeler things that
we were cooking for Asher's birthday.
Yeah. And it slipped off the counter and my face, because I was putting my whole body weight in it.
Uh-huh.
And it slipped off the counter, and because I had so much momentum, my face slammed onto the counter.
Ow, that hurts.
I know. That's why I have a black eye.
Today, with all of that needed to be said first, today we're going to be talking about the Garden of Eden and a couple different thoughts on it. One, about the future of God's plan in restoring the Garden of Eden, which you may or may not have heard about. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the point of the Garden of Eden for us as believers, what we can learn out of the story of the Garden of Eden. But more importantly, you're going to find out where the Garden of Eden actually is today. Well, maybe not actually is, but you're going to hear my wife's best theory.
I can't biblically prove it.
On where she thinks it is.
Okay.
So, Miss Amanda Jane.
Okay.
Give us your theory on the Garden of Eden.
So, I am like a conspiracy theorist. I understand that. And I dive into these weird things. And I was listening to something about Antarctica. And how every major world leader went to Antarctica in 2015 to 2017, every one of them, even the Pope. And I was like, something about that is weird. And then I started hearing about how the most volcanic activity happens under the ice in Antarctica. And it's 2 miles thick, 2 miles thick. But because of the volcanoes underneath there, that it's created this lush tropical environment underneath the ice. And I'm like, and it's so oxygen enriched that our current bodies couldn't survive in it. I mean, that's...
Well, I think the hot lava would probably kill us too.
Well, probably, but that's not the point. The point is, that's super weird. And if you think about it, it says in the Bible that the seraphim, is that what it's called?
The angel.
Yeah, moves back and forth.
With the flaming sword.
Okay.
Maybe the volcanic activity is the flaming sword.
That's what I'm saying. But it is so odd to me. I don't know. It's super odd.
The theory has some believable things
true.
to it because, one, if the Garden of Eden still existed on planet Earth today,
Okay, wait. I think, personally, that for us to still have free will, that the tree of life has to be on Earth. And so I think that's another reason why I think that it's under the ice in Antarctica, because I think God put it somewhere where we couldn't actually access it, but it was still on Earth.
Well, that's the thing. The Bible is very clear. The Garden of Eden is still on planet Earth, but it's either guarded or hidden or unavailable for mankind to get to it. First off, if mankind found the Garden of Eden, there's the angel with the flaming sword guarding the entrance, so you're not getting in there.
It's a volcano.
But there is a believable, plausible idea that, especially if you think that all of the continents at one time were combined, connected, and then over time the continents split apart.
I think that happened in the flood.
Yeah, it could have happened in the flood.
I totally do. because I know a lot of people say that they believe that the Garden of Eden has to be in the Middle East, but that can't be true because those rivers can't be where they were before, because there wouldn't be like fossils and like dead things underneath it if they were still in the place they were in the Bible. Like, I just think that.
Yeah, and we only know where two of the rivers are today currently. You know, two of the rivers are unknown, but it does.
Where did they go though? To Antarctica, I'm telling you.
Well, the reality is, if the Garden of Eden is hidden in Antarctica, it is the most remote place on planet Earth, the hardest place to exist or access on planet Earth.
Only 0.1% of the population will ever go to Antarctica.
Yeah, and even if they go to Antarctica, they're only going to scratch the fraction of the surface of what Antarctica is. So it is believable that if the Garden of Eden is on Earth, God would put it in a place that was unreachable
that you couldn't
by
access.
mankind. And it is interesting that, you know, under the surface there's a lot of unknown.
Just wait till we get to heaven.
Tropical, potential,
it's created,
lava protection.
Under 2 miles of ice, there is such a lush environment that is so oxygen enriched that our current bodies couldn't survive in it.
And that's the theory that exists.
No, that is like, Google it. I mean, I don't think Google is always true, but
Google is completely believable.
No, I'm telling you, that is what made me think about it, because I was listening to this whole conspiracy about Antarctica, and it said like it's created such like a oxygen rich environment. Are you going to Google it right now?
No.
Okay. And that's what made me think of it, and I was like, I bet that's where the Garden of Eden is.
It's believable. I mean, again, if all the continents were connected together and the continents broke apart, then if the Garden of Eden was the center of civilization in the world at that time, because that's where God began everything, it makes sense why Antarctica up at the top there could be, hiding the Garden of Eden from humanity and making the tree of life inaccessible to us.
And maybe I shouldn't get into this, like probably shouldn't. But there's just weird things about Antarctica. Because if you go on Google Earth, there are like large portions of it that you can't see, that they're like blurred out. There's not a lot of places on the world that Google Earth blurs out. So that's weird.
Yeah.
And then
maybe it's angels messing with the satellite imagery.
Maybe, probably. And then these two girls in the summer tried to cross like into wherever, and Navy SEALs encountered them and wouldn't let them go any further. And why is there a no-fly zone somewhere that there's not enough barometric pressure to even be able to get airlift?
Probably so the planes don't crash.
Well, but they can't fly
Because if
there.
I was the exactly.
There's not enough barometric pressure for
and
them
so
to even get it. So why would
some idiot pilot would try if there's not a no-fly zone and crash his plane in the ground.
That's just weird.
Not really.
It's weird.
We put up danger signs all over the place if someone's going to get hurt. And you put up those danger signs, like don't cross this path because it's dangerous over there.
Okay, then why wouldn't they let those girls cross?
Probably because they'll freeze to death and die or get eaten by polar bears.
No, it was the summer. They would have been.
I'm sure summer in Antarctica is pretty cold.
You're probably right. And
Antarctica is probably cold every day of the year.
We're probably going down a really weird path.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to
But we can edit it out.
Everybody's going to think that I'm crazy, but I'm not. We're going to get to heaven, and it's going to be true.
So either there is a conspiracy reason for why the Navy SEALs stopped these two girls, or it was just dangerous and they didn't want to have to go retrieve the bodies.
Or that's where the Garden of Eden is, and
the Navy SEALs know where the Garden of Eden is, and nobody else does. We actually have a lot of Navy SEAls in our church. I'm going to ask. We're going to ask some of the Navy SEAls in our church. Have you been to the Garden of Eden? Is that part of your Navy SEAL training?
No, it's not.
Exactly. So here's one of the most interesting things that not a lot of Christians know about the future. In Isaiah 51, verse 3, it says, "The Lord will surely comfort Zion, and he will look with compassion on all her ruins. He will make her deserts like Eden, her wastelands like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness will be found in her, and thanksgiving and the sound of singing." One of the things is going to happen at the end of time is when the New Jerusalem returns. So the New Jerusalem is where kind of the layover space of heaven is right now. So anybody that dies right now before Jesus returns goes to the New Jerusalem, which is the paradise city in the sky.
Is that going to be after the 1,000-year reign millennium?
No, this is before the 1,000-year millennial reign.
That Jerusalem will come back down to earth?
Yeah, the city in the clouds, the city in the sky, the New Jerusalem, this paradise city, whatever it looks like, this massive cube of a structure is going to come out of wherever it is. If it's in another dimension, a lot of Harvard and Yale scientists talk about string theory and how there's multiple dimensions that we can't see into. It might be in another dimension near us, maybe, somewhere in space. Either way, that city will return, the Bible says.
Before the 1,000-year reign.
Before the 1,000-year reign that it talks about in Revelation. When that city comes out of the sky and comes to planet Earth, the entire planet Earth will be restored, according to Isaiah 51 and other passages, restored back to the original Garden of Eden-like conditions.
That'll be really cool.
Where everything opens up. The tree of life becomes accessible and available to all again. All of that. And you think about how amazing it's going to be.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think that after all this happens and the tree of life is accessible again, that we will be able to eat its fruit?
I do.
So that we live forever?
Yeah.
With
No, I mean,
Jesus?
obviously we're going to live forever in heaven.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But those were the two things that he told Adam and Eve not to eat, from the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
He told them you can eat as much as you want from the tree of life, but you cannot eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will die.
I feel like I need to go back and read that because I think I was taught wrong.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were taught that you weren't supposed to eat out of either tree, but the actual passage, it says, in the middle of the garden were the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the Lord God commanded the man, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." So there was only one tree that was off limits.
And that's why he banished them from the Garden of Eden, right? So that they wouldn't
because they would have lived forever if they continued to eat out of the tree of life.
Yeah.
So with all of that being true, and for planet Earth to become the new Earth, so the goal of, a lot of people look at God as this failed inventor, that, he created mankind, created these human beings, we screwed it up, we sinned, we fell, and now God has to destroy everything and start over. And that's what a lot of people think of what's going to happen at the end. That's why, there's this rescue plan called heaven, and we're all going to be rescued out of earth because earth is going to be destroyed, and we're going to go to this place called heaven and live forever with God. But that is not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches something very, very different than that. God is going to redeem all things. He's going to restore all things. He's going to rejuvenate all things.
But
that is the theme throughout Scripture, is redemption and restoration.
Is the world going to be destroyed first, or no?
I mean, the world is being destroyed right now.
No, I know. But, I guess I was always taught that, the world was going to be destroyed and everything would have to be rebuilt.
It's going to be restored. Now, I don't know what aspect of that will be, what aspect has to be destroyed before it's restored. What we know is that when the New Jerusalem comes to planet Earth, all things are going to be redeemed and restored. Now, does that mean everything that's there has to burn up before it can be rebuilt?
That's what I was always taught.
Is God just going to resurrect all things where everything comes back to life? It's like you've seen those movies of a dead flower that's withering, and then you water it and that flower comes back to life. In my mind, I think that's what's going to happen because we're already being destroyed.
That's true.
We've got earthquakes, we've got natural disasters, we've got decay, we've got destruction.
I mean, do you remember a couple of weeks ago when we were filming and the earthquake happened.
Yeah, we've got all these things happening on planet Earth right now. So there's already destruction on Earth. What I think is going to happen is everything is going to come back to the life that it was intended to have originally.
Without being destroyed, it gets restored.
Yeah, the question that people have is God going to destroy everything before he remakes it or redeems it or restores it? And I don't know the answer to that. There's nothing that necessarily that's clear that says everything has to be demolished before it can be rebuilt. I tend to believe it's like that, picture in my mind of a flower that's withering away and dying and fading, and then you add water to it, and all of a sudden that flower comes back to life. In my mind, that's what God's going to do. Everything's going to come back to life. Okay. You think about the oceans. The oceans, when the New Jerusalem comes, and this planet begins to be restored and regenerated, one of the things that's going to happen is the oceans will go back to fresh water from salt water, because salt water is a product of the curse of sin. Salt water was never necessary until sin entered the equation. And when sin entered the equation...
How do you know that, though?
Everything, it's just scientific. I don't have the exact science and research on it, but if you study why salt water is salt water, it has to do with decay. It has to do with preservation, decay, which all has to do with the curse of sin on planet Earth. And so without decay,
there would not be
there's no need
water.
for salt water. We can have fresh water, everything. Everything's going to be fresh. Fruit, vegetables, food.
I feel like when we go to heaven, we're not going to get to eat meat, and that kind of makes me sad.
I don't know. I highly doubt we're going to eat meat in heaven, but I highly doubt we're not going to be...
care.
The reality is you're going to have the best food you've ever had in heaven. Because your taste buds are going to be perfect.
You're right. I'm just saying, I really love a good steak.
Exactly, and enjoy it while you can. Yeah, I honestly, I don't think there's going to be, because again, if death is gone, then death is gone. Like there's no more death.
Let's go back to the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
What is that going to look like? The whole world is going to be like the Garden of Eden?
Conditions. The world will go back to Garden of Eden-like conditions, which means the world will become perfect in every way of what God intended the world to be. So plants are not going to have thorns. You're not going to have to worry about a poisonous ivy. If you're hiking out in the woods,
poison ivy, not poisonous ivy.
Whatever, same thing. You're not going to have to.
Yeah, there's not going to be like things that will harm you, right? But do you think, how like the theologians say that like before the flood happened, it had never rained, and that the whole world was in like
a water canopy?
Yes. Do you think it's going to go back to that and it won't rain anymore?
Probably. I probably think it'll be some. Again, we're not going to have the sun because Jesus will be the light that illuminates all things. Now, what does that mean scientifically or practically? I don't really have a great understanding of that.
Do you think there'll be night?
Again, I don't know. I don't know if there'll be night. I don't know if there'll be sleep or daytime, or having to go to sleep at night. I know it'll be restful. I know it'll be peaceful. I know that we'll have work to do. We'll have jobs to do.
Yeah, because it says in the Bible that there'll be kingdoms and rulers,
arts, cultures. There's going to be.
things.
It's going to be beyond our wildest imagination in the most positive way we could comprehend.
But even Paul says that we just can't comprehend it.
No, we can't. Now, the Bible describes it, though, a lot.
Yeah.
So it gives us clues of what it's going to be like. But I think C.S. Lewis, he described it this way. It's like when the new Narnia came at the end of the Chronicles of Narnia, everything was restored. It was London. It was the new London. It was London, but it was like a better version of London than they could possibly imagine. Okay. And God's going to bring back civilizations and cultures.
What was that book? Heaven?
Yeah, Heaven by Randy Alcorn.
That's a good book.
Very good book.
There's some seriously interesting things in there.
Because the Bible says far more about heaven than we realize. But if I was the devil, my goal would get people to think heaven is boring, that heaven is not something to look forward to,
Yeah.
Because if you really believe that once you get to heaven, it's going to be boring, and look, I want to go to heaven, I just want to
cloud, and
I don't want to get there tomorrow, then you're not really going to be passionate about your faith on earth. You're going to be trying to enjoy everything earth has to offer, and you're going to be more consumed with pleasures and more consumed with the things of this world than the things of God, because you're like, once you're dead, it's over. You got nothing to look forward to. But if you really understand what the Bible describes as heaven, it's going to be far better there. Yeah. We're going to have more adventure. We're going to have more fun. We're going to have more excitement. We're going to have more exploration. We're going to have better work. We're going to have better food, better life, better quality, better everything.
We might even be able to fly.
If I understand that everything there is going to be 10 times more exciting, more adventurous, better than everything here.
It makes you want to.
Then I need to live my life here on mission.
Yeah.
Like there's a point to this life, and I need to live this life on mission for the next life.
Exactly.
And this is where a lot of Christians go wrong, is they misunderstand the difference between grace for salvation and works for judgment. We will be judged based on our works. We will get into heaven based on grace.
On our salvation.
There is nothing you can do to earn your salvation.
Right.
That is the grace of God and the grace of God alone. God will never mix your salvation with any level of works or earning, because it would make null and void what Jesus did on the cross. What he did on the cross was grace. Yeah. That was for our salvation. Now, after you become a believer, we live our life on mission. Those are what's called works. And Paul says that all of us will stand at the judgment seat of Christ and be judged based on our works. Now, the misunderstanding is people think it's going to be a negative judgment.
Well, now I feel like I need to start doing more works.
Well, if you understand what Paul's saying, he's talking about the bema seat of Christ, which is the pedestal, the judgment pedestal. This comes from the Olympics. So at the end of every event in the Olympics, there is a judgment rendered. That's why you have judges in the Olympics.
Yeah.
The judges score gymnastics, and the judges score all of these different things. And so at the end of every event, there is a judgment. One person is judged gold. One person is judged silver. One person is judged bronze. That's not a negative thing. That judgment is based on how well they did, and they're being rewarded. The judgment is a reward. It's not a consequence.
That is actually really interesting. I've never looked at it like that.
Yeah, if you're judged bronze, that's a reward. You were rewarded bronze.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's not something we should be afraid of, because it's not a judgment of consequence. It's a judgment of reward. The Bible says he will reward us for the life that we lived. So when we stand on the judgment seat of Christ, it's to receive a reward, not to receive a consequence. There is no consequence for us as believers. The consequence is eternal separation from God in the lake of fire in hell.
Right.
For us as believers, the only judgment we will stand before God for is to be rewarded for what we did with our life. Now, the Bible also says we're going to take the rewards and throw them at the feet of Jesus.
Well, we'll cast our crowns.
Yeah, cast all of our crowns at the feet of Jesus, because he is deserving of it all.
Yeah.
My position is I don't want to be there empty-handed.
I don't either.
Like when everyone's there throwing crowns at Jesus, I don't want to be there thinking I don't have a crown to throw because I didn't do anything with my life.
Or like you don't want to have a crown that doesn't have any embellishments on it.
Yeah, like I want something to throw at his feet, so I'm going to live my life.
I agree with you.
On mission, and that's the point.
And I love that about you.
Yeah, but that's the difference between grace to get into heaven and what I do with my life after I receive grace. Like the Apostle Paul was the hardest working man in the Bible. Like he worked so hard for the gospel. He was the biggest grace preacher at the same time. Nobody taught grace stronger and harder than Paul, and nobody worked harder and more than Paul.
Can I ask another random question? Why did his name get changed from Saul to Paul?
It's a good question. I think God was giving him a new identity for the mission he was calling him on. You know, I need to do a word study on what those two names mean.
Yeah, we should actually really look into that, because
it's a great question.
I know. I bet my Nana knows.
I bet she does. She knows everything. She's so smart. Maybe Bible X knows, since we're going to be using Bible, empowered by Bible X.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a really good question.
But the same thing, he changed Abraham from Abram and...
Yeah, no, that's an interesting study, because what he did with Sarah and what he did Sarai and Abraham is he added the ha, which is the fifth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It's the he, which is the letter that corresponds with grace. God adds grace to Abram's name. So Abram is exalted one. Abraham, God adds grace. Now he's a father of multitudes. When the grace
very smart.
adds to his, so it's like when God's grace comes on Abram's life, it's grace-based living. When God's grace comes on Abram's life, he becomes a father of multitude. Sarai was, I think it was princess, and then grace comes to her. Sarah, the H, comes to her life, and then she becomes the queen mother. And so grace elevates them. And that one there was all grace. It was a symbol of grace, the breath of God, the fifth letter. It's a picture of the open window.
Yeah.
Like you look at the word Yahweh, which is the name of the Lord all throughout the Old Testament. Here's what's interesting about it. You've got three letters. You got the Yod, He, Vav, He. Yod, He, Vav, He. It's 4 Hebrew letters.
Okay.
You have grace twice in the name Yahweh, the He. He is the picture. Every Hebrew letter is pictorial. So there's a picture assigned to every letter. So the He is the picture of the window, the open window, meaning that there's a breeze, there's a breath. It's the breath of God. It's the picture of the breath of God, and it's the fifth letter. Every time 5 is mentioned in the Bible, it's always correlated and connected to grace. 5 is always grace. 10 is always test. 5 is always grace. Every number has a different meaning
7
in
is
the
always
Bible.
completion, right?
I think it's 11. That's completion.
Okay.
7 might be perfection. I'd have to go back. I've got a whole book on this
I
at
feel
home.
like this podcast is going to make me look so stupid.
Anyway,
no,
so
you're like super smart, and I'm asking you all these questions, and I'm like,
we'll edit it out so you look smart.
you don't have to. You can tell everybody that I'm
But let's go back to Yahweh for a moment.
Smart.
So Yod, He, Vav, He. I may get the Yod and the Vav a little bit confused because I don't have my notes right in front of me. One of them, I believe it's the Yod, means the open hand. It's a picture of an open hand in the Hebrew alphabet. The Vav is a picture of a nail. So Yahweh in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew language, the name of the Lord is the window, see the open hand, see the nail.
What?
That's what Yahweh in the pictorial graph means
actually
in the Old Testament.
Very cool.
Which is very prophetic on Jesus.
Didn't know though that.
See the open hand, see the nail.
But I didn't know that that it was all pictorial.
Yahweh. So when Pilate put those letters on the cross above Jesus, see the open hand, see the nail, Yahweh.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you dive down that rabbit hole of the fifth letter, He. What it does for Abram and Sarah, how you add the grace to their life and who they become under grace. And that's why, Paul in Galatians uses the story of Abram and Sarah so much to teach us about grace, the difference between living in the flesh and living under grace, living in the Spirit.
Yeah.
Think about it. So living in the flesh, what were we taught growing up that living in the flesh meant?
Living in the flesh? I don't know.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I feel like I was taught so many wrong things.
I know. That's what I'm asking you is what were you taught? Because I'm almost sure it was wrong.
I actually don't even think that I could answer that question.
Yeah, living in the flesh, for most of us growing up, it was living in sin.
Yes.
If you were in the flesh, you were in sin.
Exactly.
You were committing sinful behavior. If you're living in the flesh, you're looking at porn. You're cheating on your wife. You're doing drugs. That's what living in the flesh means to most people.
But that's not really what it means.
But if you look at Galatians, Paul uses the story of Sarah and Hagar to illustrate what it means to live in the flesh and live in the Spirit. Sarah was living in the Spirit. Hagar was living in the flesh. So if Hagar is living in the flesh, then it can't mean sinful behavior.
Because that wasn't really her fault.
No, well, you got to look. What is Abraham doing? God promises Abraham, you're going to be a father of multitudes.
Right.
Sarah is barren. Abraham is trying to fulfill the promise of God on his life. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
We should live to see the promises of God fulfilled in our life. Abram's trying to fulfill the promise of God, so he takes matters in his own hand, does what he believes is right, so that the promise of God can be fulfilled. What living in the flesh is self-righteousness. It's trying to earn your righteous standing with God through good behavior, through being very religious, through obeying all the commands. That, according to the Bible, living in the flesh is simply being self-righteous and trying to do it all under religion and trying to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Living in the Spirit is supernatural. It's grace.
That actually
It's
makes
grace.
so much sense.
Because Sarah, they couldn't get pregnant with Sarah. She was barren. It had to be.
Right.
It had to be the
And
grace
she
of God
was
and
like,
supernatural.
What, 99?
Yeah. And so we are called to live in the Spirit, which means we are called to live under the grace of God. That it's not our effort, it's not our ability, it's not what we do that earns the favor and the grace of God. It's His supernatural hand. Now, living in the Spirit, we're going to be the hardest working people out there, not because we're trying to earn something from God, but because He's already given it all to us. And that's what Paul was.
Okay.
Paul was somebody who did not have to earn, but he worked incredibly hard, not to earn, but because he already had.
Yeah.
I don't work hard for the blessing of God. I work hard from the blessing of God. God's already blessed. So I work hard out of that blessing, not for that blessing. And it's been a great conversation today.
Yeah.
Been around the world. Started with the Garden of Eden and conspiracy theories about Antarctica and where it's at today.
I mean, I could tell you more about it, but
to living in the Spirit, living in the flesh.
I won't say any more about Antarctica, but I could go on for hours about it.
You could.
It's a little crazy.
Thank you for joining us on Grace-Based Living today. I hope this has helped you understand a little bit more of what it means to walk out a life in the Spirit, the grace of God, grace-based livings, and to live your life for the judgment seat that is coming. And don't be afraid of that judgment seat, because it's not a judgment of consequences. It's a judgment of reward for the life we live for Christ. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us on the Coastline Podcast today. And let me tell you, if you ever have a question for myself or my wife or any of our guests, or would love to hear a show about or a question about, email us at podcast@coastlinechurch.org, and we'd love to respond to you. Now, before you sign out, please like, subscribe, or follow whatever device you are on or platform you are following us with today, so that you never miss an episode. I'm grateful to get to do this together. Thank you for joining us.